feel a lot of tension in your leg. No wonder you're having a lot of issues walking right now. We're going to just give it a little stretch. Take a deep breath on three. One. Oh, yeah, your hips are really tight. We're going to do a little crack to release some pressure and breathe. Hey, team. I'm excited to share this episode with you today. In today's episode, we're going to be clocking in with my friend Kent. Kent has 5 years of experience as a physical therapist, and in today's episode, he's going to share what it's like being a PT, all of the school that's required, what a day in the life is like, and what other opportunities you can have. All right, let's jump in. Hey, Kent, thanks for coming on today's show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm pumped.
Bruh, you know what's crazy? I've had like a lot of realizations, like we've known each other since like 2009, dude.
I know. That is kind of crazy. And like recently reconnected over PT.
Over PT and running.
Right.
Bro,
Full circle.
when I supported you on your 50 miler, I was like, God dang, this is far, bro. It was
It is
like,
fun. I would have been absolutely roasted without you. I legitimately don't think I could have finished that.
what I
And
find
I truly mean that.
I find that so funny because I thought the same thing because I was like, I was supporting you, but I kind of felt like you were supporting me to get through that 60.
We were both
Dude,
boosting each other.
bruh. I think I met up with you at mile 34, and
Yeah.
then we had 16 miles, and I was like, bruh, I've been training. I feel healthy. We're going to go slow. Dude, time on my feet kicked my
Yeah.
ass. I won't
Yeah.
lie.
Because we did go slow, but that's more time on the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have,
It
have,
catches
have
up
you
to you.
noticed that that's like your experience is like time on feet regardless of pace even like affects you?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a good way to like train for something like that is,
Mm.
maybe not focus on like because running 20 miles in 2.5 hours for a race if you're training for something super long probably is not as effective as doing 20 miles in 4 to 5 hours. Just
Mm.
because it's more realistic, you're getting more time on your feet, slower pace. So I think for crazy, like for long distances like that, or maybe that's my justification for just running slow all the time.
Bro, you do run slow. No, just kidding. Oh my
It's
god.
true. It's true.
Do you have any big races coming up or kind of just chilling right now?
Nothing. Just honestly, since that race, haven't been running a ton. I feel like I don't know if I was burnt out, but like I don't think I was enjoying running as much towards
Mm.
like the end of that training, and then during the race, I was kind of like, why am I doing this?
That's how I
And
felt after. Yeah. Go
usually
ahead.
there's
Go.
like a turnaround of like a week later, you're like, oh sweet, let's do another one. But this time I was kind of like, I'm don't have like a strong desire to do it, so I'm
Mm.
sure my spark for running will come back, but for the meantime, just been taking it easy.
Nice.
Yeah,
Are you like lifting or anything or kind of just
yeah,
like
pretty much
yeah.
lifting, playing tennis,
Oh, sick.
running like a couple times a week, pretty casual. So it's
Mm.
also freezing cold here, so it's not very conducive to getting outside.
Bro, you're out in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
This morning it
where in
was
Minnesota? I don't even.
so yeah, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, the Twin Cities, which is on like the east, kind of central-ish south portion of the state, but way on the east side. So we're like 45-minute drive from Wisconsin.
Nice. I don't even know what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah.
I was like, bro, cool.
Gotta get your atlas out.
Literally. Wait, Wisconsin is east of
Yeah, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Cool.
And North
Oh,
Dakota's
wait.
on the west side.
Is Wisconsin Milwaukee? Is that where Milwaukee is?
Yes, correct,
Okay.
correct.
I've been to
Yep.
Milwaukee.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Nice.
you got it, you got it.
Okay, I've
We're
been
getting
east of
there.
you. Yeah.
You're learning
Nice.
something.
Bruh. Yeah. I did the Tucson Marathon. That was cool.
Yeah, you seemed like it went well. Yeah.
Bruh, hit the wall, punched me right in the jaw. It was awesome. Dude, I was
Is it
like,
like 20 miles in?
it kind of started
Sooner?
leaking at mile 16. Like, I
Yeah,
was fine, but like, what was interesting was my mental kind of gave up.
yeah,
And during
yeah,
at mile 16, I was like, bro, we still got 10 miles. Like, that's not far, but
I was like, what if I walked? And so that kind of like creeped into my brain. Then
Yeah,
mile 18, I actually walked. And then from
yeah,
18 to like 24 or something, I like walk ran.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's such a mental like, or it's all about
True.
perspective. Like if you are doing a 20-mile run, mile 10, things are gonna like start to feel rough. You know,
Mhm.
12 to 14 is gonna go downhill. But if you're doing a 26-mile run, like mile 10, you feel great. It's no
Yeah.
different. It's just like what you have in mind of what's ahead of you
Hmm.
totally changes like how you feel as you go. And only
Yeah.
like that only is more true the further and the longer you run.
I think that has been currently my experience, and I tried to like gaslight myself at mile 20. I was like, bruh, you're I was like survival mode. Like at the moment I
Yeah,
hit mile
yeah,
20, I was like, bruh, it's 10K to go. That's two 5Ks. I can do two 5Ks.
yeah,
And I was running slow. At that point I was off pace. And I said, okay, you know what? I can just, it's like I run around Tempe Town Lake at a casual pace all the time. Those
yeah,
are easy. This is
yeah. A
easy.
couple laps of that can do it.
No, no. Bruh, I was dying. It
Just
was like
knocked you
cramping
out.
up. I was like, yeah, it was,
Do you
yeah.
think was it like your fueling, or what do you think ended up biting you in the butt?
I wonder something salt related. Like Tucson is a downhill course, so that should have
Okay,
been pretty easy.
yeah,
But uh,
that's that gets on wears on you after a while.
lower back, bro,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Quads getting
And,
on fire.
and I don't know if my salt intake was correct, and so dude, mile 20 hit, and I was like, I don't want to eat anything anymore.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I had to force it. I was like, bro, you need
yeah.
this thing.
You saw me go through that. I was like, I
Yeah, yeah.
like literally can't. Like, I'd rather just be depleted and destroyed than try
Hmm.
to force this down and like probably end up throwing it back up.
Yeah, literally.
And
Yeah,
it's so hard to like get yourself to do it. You're like, I know this is what I need, but it's literally the last thing I want.
yeah. We were drinking Coke and like eating candy, and like it's so
Yeah,
funny, right? Like you're eating junk food and you're like, bro, I need this right now.
yeah, I know, I
Or,
know.
or my body needs this.
My
Mentally,
body
you're
needs this. Yeah, it's
yeah,
the only time this is the acceptable thing to eat right now, but I don't
yeah,
want it.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
it's brutal.
But yeah, so tell me a little bit about what you do. You're a physical therapist.
Yeah, physical therapist. I've been working for coming up on 5 years now, which is makes me feel old. Um, so I graduated from PT school in 2020 in the middle of the
Oh,
pandemic, which was
yeah.
not a great job market to come out into, but I feel like things turned around quickly for the most part, and life resumed to normal. So yeah, been doing it for about 5 years. Been at the same clinic the whole time, and it's been a
Mm.
good ride so far.
Bro, that's actually kind of interesting. Did you have like a ceremony at all? Like you couldn't
No,
because
it
that's
was it
that
was
was like the
all
heat
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like our um, you do like rotations your last year, and my last one got cut short because of it, and then they just like mailed you your diploma, and
Yep.
it was pretty anticlimactic, but that was
Bro,
fine.
this guy's sad.
In the moment,
This
it was
guy's
like,
sad.
ah, dang, this is a bummer. And then they offered us to come back a year later to like graduate with the next class. At that time,
You're
I was
like,
like, nah, no thanks.
nah, yeah, I'm making money.
Like, I've
I'm
already been
set.
doing this. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
Bro, that's actually kind of interesting that I didn't even think of. Like, you're right. Like, COVID was hot. Like, that was like hot. And your job, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, is very physical. I guess it's in the name.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, for most people at our clinic got furloughed for 3 to 4 months because
Mm.
like no one was coming in, and
You
then
can't even, right?
yeah,
Or I
the
guess.
people who did stay working, they did do video visits, which is like very far from ideal because, like you said, something you got to be in person for. But yeah, exactly, exactly. Like, let me see how much you can move your knee. Okay, so it's
Okay, push,
uh,
push
yeah,
harder,
exactly.
try
Yeah,
harder. You're
right,
okay.
right, right. It's not the greatest setup, but then healthcare obviously was one of the first things to like resume to normalcy pretty quickly. So it was by September things were back up and running, and they job market opened back up.
Wait,
So it
that
ended up
fast?
being fine. Yeah, it was pretty quick.
September 2020?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That was when they brought everyone back. I think at that point, like they'd kind of figured out masking and precautions, and
V2 was starting to
hospitals.
come up like a month later
Yeah,
after that.
yeah, exactly. Hospitals were like obviously running like normal, so I think
Mm,
the rest of healthcare kind of caught up, and then yeah, it was pretty normal from that point on. I mean, normal, but
right.
um, we had full staff, and everyone was busy, and patients were willing to come in, so it made things fairly easy in the long run.
Okay, gotcha. For a physical therapist, do you have to go to school for that?
Yeah, so it's do your 4 years of undergrad. You can get a degree in anything. There's most PT schools have prerequisite classes that you need to take. So usually it's you got to have anatomy class, chemistry, basic physics. There's some other, each school kind of has their own requirements, but more or less they're all the same. So you can major in whatever you wanted to. I majored in exercise science, which obviously like more applicable, but you could major in art history if you wanted to, and like still take your prereqs. Um, so after undergrad, and then it's a 3 year clinical doctorate program. So not quite a PhD program; it's different than that. But so most schools are a 3 year program. Some are doing it in 2.5, and even a little less. Um, but I'd say for the most part, 3 is a pretty average timeline, and it's 2 years of pretty much full time class. And then our last year was all rotations. And PT schools have different requirements of like settings that you have to do your rotations in. So usually you need like a experience in a hospital, experience with neuro patients, and then some sort of like orthopedic setting. So you make your rounds through those your last year, and then you come out, take boards, and ready to roll, assuming all goes well.
Gotcha. So we got Dr. Deerdorf on the call right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
You
bro,
can you
that's
can say
lit.
that if you want. You can say that if you want.
That's cool. So with schooling, okay, I see the structure. You said like the first 2 years are like pretty coursework heavy, and then the
Yep.
last year is like a few different opportunities to see like what is out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
during classwork too, like those first 2 years, they still like throw you out in the clinic when you can, or like maybe you have a short rotation just to kind of get your feet wet. But it's really that last year where you kind of take everything you've learned and apply it to the different settings. And it's also a good time to figure out like, most people
What you
probably go
like.
into PT wanting to do ortho, but then during those rotations, you might see like, oh, I actually really like this, or, neuro is
Mm.
really fun, or, you can kind of experiment with it. So yeah, it's a good way to like just try different things that you probably get no other chance to do that.
How'd you like your rotations? Like, did you have a pretty cool set of rounds, or did you really hate something? You know?
No, they were. I feel like I lucked out. I mean,
And did you get to pick? Kind of like.
yeah. So every school probably has like a similar system where you rank what you want to do based on both location and setting. And so, schools have relationships with different clinics or hospitals that, they'll say we're going to send X number of students a year to there. So you can kind of have a list and like rank where you want. Um, and I actually like my first rotation was in wound care, which is a very like specific uh, thing that PTs do that not a lot of people know about. But
Bruh, I thought you said womb care. I was like, what? Okay, wound
yeah,
care. Got it.
definitely not that. Yeah,
Okay, so
wound
like
care. So
wounds.
yeah, so like
Is that like burn stuff?
it could be burns, it could be like post-operative wounds, it could be you
Scalp.
know surgeries that didn't heal well, certain medical conditions cause wounds, and so it's you learn about it in school, but it's like a very minor portion of it. And so I must have been at like the bottom of the list when we first picked rotations because I got one in wound care, and I was like, dang, I really don't want to do this.
You're like, whoa, this
But
sucks.
I ended up loving it, and it was like
Mm.
one of my favorite rotations, and it actually made me choose wound care for another one of my like elective rotations. So I always encourage people to go in like with an open mind because again, most people are like, I want to do sports PT, like that's what I want to do, and then you might find that there's like this. I looked at jobs in wound care. I was really interested in it,
Oh wow.
and so
Like it
yeah,
impacted you that much.
yeah, totally. I like for a while I was like, man, this is what I want to do, and like it's hard to find wound care clinics, but it's also hard to find people to want to do it. So like if you
Mm.
found a job, it'd probably be pretty good chance that you could get a job there. But yeah, in the end, I had a good outpatient ortho rotation, and it's actually at the clinic that I work at now. So that's the other
Mm.
nice thing is like if you have good rotations and you make relationships with those people, oftentimes that ends up leading to a job in the future. So if it's in the location you want to be, it's kind of like a test run for would I want to work here, or like
Yeah.
how do I
It's
like
like
the
a
people that I
soft
work with.
like soft interning.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, tracking.
Um,
Oh yeah, that's exactly kind of like how it went with Elizabeth. She did a few different rotations and then she learned what she liked and didn't like. And um, with her current clinic, that's where she works now.
okay,
So
okay.
yeah, same setup.
Which were a lot of her rotations in Phoenix, or were they up in Flagstaff?
Uh, her campus was down in Phoenix.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, but I think she had one that was in Tucson, and that was for like a week or two.
okay.
Yeah, but some people were sent like a few hours away, like far.
Yeah, and that's
Did you have that, or were
no,
yours all pretty local?
mine were all pretty local, and I've had students ask me like PT students ask me like, oh, like, do you recommend going somewhere like unique for a
Mm.
rotation? And it's kind of like there's two ways you can look at it. Let's say you had like you want to go to Colorado for 3 months and do a rotation, like that's a great time to experience something new, go to a new place, or like see, hey, would I like this? Um, but if you know like where you want to live, like I knew I was going to stay in Minnesota, um, so I kind of wanted to stick in that area. I do think going back to the like test run for your job piece, I do think like developing a network where you
Out
want to
there.
be is actually like incredibly beneficial because I think I feel like we probably aren't told enough that like a lot of it comes down to who you know, like getting
Bro,
jobs.
that is
Yeah,
actually the truth. It's all about
and
networking.
it feels kind of like a little grimy to say that, but it's just realistic. And
Mhm.
so
So
again,
what
for me,
connections
like
do you have? Yeah.
yeah, and if you know you want to live in Denver, like try to do your rotations in Denver, like develop relationships with people there. If you find a clinic you like, it's going to be much easier for you to get a job there than coming out of nowhere and being like, "Hey, I want to work here." So, uh, I do tell people like use it as a time to use these rotations as a time to like experience something new, but also keep in mind like it is kind of a test run for a job in the future, and if you know you want to be somewhere, like you can try to use that strategically to better your chances of getting a really good job that you want.
Yep, totally agree with that. Every like resume is like every resume is the same resume, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
It's
Like
like
coming out of PT school, it's like everyone they went to undergrad, they have a DPT. Like there's not
I'm
a
the same.
ton of ways you can stand out from there, and then like
Yep.
that's just realistic.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Um, so you mentioned that you work at an outpatient clinic.
Hmm.
All right, bro, I'm gonna be real. I'm a little bit dummy about this, and I've asked every single time to just like I don't even medical professionals,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
is outpatient
yeah.
and like
Versus
what are like the other not
yeah,
outpatient?
great question. So an inpatient setting would be a hospital setting.
Mm,
So if they use inpatient, usually it's like sometimes it can be a clinic within a hospital, but for the most part, it's you're staying in a hospital. Outpatient is like a clinic that you just walk into, get your treatment, and leave. So that's the main difference. If you said inpatient, someone would be working in a hospital. You said outpatient, not inside of a hospital, just like a regular walk-in clinic. So most ortho clinics are going to be outpatient because you're not really going to be doing like ortho specifically in a hospital.
Oh wait, what is ortho again?
Orthopedics, sorry. So,
Bro, all right, what is that? Bro, I don't know anything. What is
so
that?
uh,
Orthopedic?
orthopedics is essentially like the musculoskeletal system. It's a basically like sports is a subset of orthopedics, but like orthopedics is your like bread and butter PT of any sort of joint pain, muscle pain, like what you think of when you think PT. That's orthopedics. Sports
Okay.
would be like just as you're focused on working with athletes within that population. And then again, you can do so in a hospital, an inpatient, you could do neurology. So you'd be working with patients who've had strokes or spinal cord injuries.
Mm.
Um, you could do general hospital work, which would be seeing anything that comes in the door. It could be joint replacements, other surgeries, cancer units, basically anything that would go into a hospital. PTs would see that. So that's um, kind of called acute care, which is a like an acute setting in a hospital. And then there's again wound care is another big thing, and then like pediatrics would be one of the bigger fields that PTs work in. So obviously you
Okay.
know about that. Both of our wives being pediatric occupational therapists.
Literally.
Yeah,
That was the big word that I caught. I was like, pediatrics, kids, got it. I
yeah,
was
got
like,
it. Yeah,
all
yeah.
right, cracking. Okay, so that means outpatient. So that like the two big buckets are outpatient and
Yep, inpatient.
inpatient,
Yep,
where inpatient is probably talking about like hospitals.
yep,
Outpatient is like the PT clinic down the
yep.
road from
Down the road, 100%.
you.
Yep, you
Do I
got it.
need like a bro? How do I go?
Say
Like,
it.
do I just walk in,
Yeah.
or
So
or like, do I
that's a
call ahead? Do I need a prescription?
that's a great question, and that's actually been a big change in the field of PT, and it is becoming more true with OT as well. So it started physical therapy started as like a bachelor's degree, and then it shifted to a master's degree, and within the last like 20 years, I think all schools have had to be doctorate degrees. So the level of education is rising, which is probably true of any field, but with that comes just more basic like medical background training. So now in most, I don't know this the rules on or like the laws on in every state, but like in Minnesota, you no longer need to see a doctor first before you see a physical
Mm,
therapist. So it used to be you have to go to your primary care physician and say, "Hey, my neck hurts." They'd look at you and say, "Okay, I'll write a script for PT," and then you can go. Now, because the level of education has gotten higher to become a PT, you can just go right into your PT clinic and say, I want to make an appointment. You don't have to see a doctor. And then you can, it's because in theory, and with the extra training that we have, we should be able to rule out, like, yep, this is a musculoskeletal problem that I can treat versus, nope, this is something more serious that you need to see
like
a
a
doctor
neuro
for.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like,
Oh, gotcha.
so with that extra schooling comes more responsibility, but also like more independence where patients can just come in and see you. You can determine like, yep, I'm safe to see this patient, or nope, you need to go back and see the doctor. So, and again, that's different in every state, but for the most part, I think you can just call them up and be like, my knee hurts. I want to
Help
come
me.
see you. Yeah, totally.
Interesting. And it's funny that you talk about my knee because my knee does hurt.
I was gonna say
Bro.
I have been meaning to ask you about your Strava post. I saw you did one
Bro, did you
mile
see
pain
today's?
free recently.
Pain free, bro. Yes. Okay.
Was this
I'm
a
gonna
post
all right.
marathon?
Quick
I get
PT
it.
question. All
Yep,
right.
yep. Let's do it
Live. Live.
live on
All
air.
right. We'll do movements or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. It feels like it's an IT band issue,
yeah.
but I don't think my glute is that bad. Like I feel like my glutes are strong. I've been doing those movements like the bridges and stuff like that. But something that I've noticed the pattern is like my hamstring. I like stretched it on like Monday and then I took Tuesday off. Or wait, what's today? Thursday? Oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
However, it
yeah.
worked out. And then today was like pain free, And I found that pattern the first time I had this issue in like 2023. Is that bro science? Or is that
Well,
like, ooh, there might be some there, bro?
what it could be, your one of your hamstring, you have three different hamstring
Mm.
tendons. One of them goes to the outside of your knee and actually attaches within like an inch of where your IT band is. So
Mm.
you could be having pain on the outside of your knee that
Thinking it's IT
can,
band.
yep, because that's like if you've had it in the past, or it's very common, or you go to Google and like that's what it says. There could be a good chance that it's a hamstring problem as well.
Okay,
So
I see.
just because like they're in close proximity, and then if you were to see a PT and they could do an exam, they'd be able to like decipher. So you just got to go down to your clinic, say, "Hey, my knee hurts.
Dude, that's
I
so
don't need to
funny.
see a doctor." Go.
Bro, I complain about I complain all the time about my knee, and all my friends are like, bro, you gotta go to a PT. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I talk to my boy all the time.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
kind of feel weird because I'm like, bro, is this free?
That,
It's like, you charging me right now?
you bought me that burrito, so we're even for a while.
Okay, gotcha. And then you, all right, sick. That's
So
fair.
yeah, I allow you to get free PT advice from me.
All
Next time we
right.
hang out, you can buy me another burrito.
Oh, done, dude.
Seems like a
Rudy's.
fair
Shout out
trade.
Rudy's burritos.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's good
Um,
post pre-race fuel.
literally.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, why did you choose wound care over uh, ortho
yeah.
when you like liked wound care so much?
Or why did I choose ortho over wound care?
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, wound care was something that I did not expect to like, and I ended up liking it, which seemed like really, really cool to me. And I think um, it just made it like more of a unique experience. But then one of my last rotations was in ortho, and it kind of brought me back around to like, oh yeah, this is. I think like I really liked I had 4 or 5 months in wound care. I really liked it, but I think I just thought a little more like long term. I see
Mm,
myself doing orthopedics more so than wound care. And the nice thing about PT is there's no like specializing, or I can come back to that, but like you don't have to come out of school. Like for a physician, you do a residency in pediatrics or you do it in oncology, whatever it is. Like you're kind of tied into that field. PT, like I could be doing ortho right now and tomorrow go out and find a wound care job and just like flip and completely
transition.
switch fields. Yep. I could do that for a year and then say, nope, I'm doing neuro. So I
Mm,
kind of always knew that option was there, which was why I was like, I think ortho is like what I've always wanted to do. Um, Getting back to it in one of my rotations, I was like, yeah, I see myself doing this long term. And if I get it 10 years, I'm like, I'm sick of this. Go
like
find a
it's
wound
not
care
hard to
job.
transition.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Which is nice. Yeah. It's good to have that flexibility.
I was gonna ask you actually about the kind of like lateral moves that you can do in terms of like, okay, so to me I feel like those are relatively big buckets,
Mm-hmm.
ortho versus wound versus like w- pediatrics.
Pediatrics. Yeah. So you got it. You
Okay,
got
cool. Yeah, I was like,
it.
and then the other ones.
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
literally. Like that stuff is pretty easy. Like obviously if you specialize you're going to be like the expert, but like it's not that bad to transition.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think there'd maybe be some like, oh, you were doing ortho for the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Why are
for sure.
you switching?
Hmm.
Um, but I think I mean, having some experience helps, obviously, with any
Yeah,
job. Um, so I think it would maybe be more challenge. It would definitely be more challenging than trying to find a different job of what you're already doing.
yeah. Hmm.
But it is 100% possible to just completely jump ship, move laterally to another field. Um, it would just be it'd be more challenging than trying to stay within your field but change like clinics or jobs there.
Yeah. I kind of totally makes sense. And I think that that was kind of like my problem with like aerospace engineering. It just felt so niche, and it was like, yep, you're this one thing, and you're this
Yeah.
one thing forever. And it's
Right.
like, dude,
Right.
I don't know. Like, what if my interests change or
Yeah.
industry
It's
changes? Like,
like a super daunting feeling of like, oh boy,
oh,
this
dude,
is like what I'm
it's like
stuck in.
choking. Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
pigeonholes.
Right.
Yeah.
Suffocating. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I like PT and OT are great fields because there's a ton of variety in it, and you
Mm,
can also like do management or like, if you want to get away from patient care, there's some options. So
yeah.
I feel like there's enough variety that like over the course of your career, you could like stay, I don't know,
Like
interested and
move
involved and not
around.
get, yeah,
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 evolve as you want.
right, right.
Nice.
So
Yeah, it's up to you to like determine what your next steps are.
yeah,
So that's kind of
totally,
cool. And you're
totally.
not like as blockaded.
Right, right, exactly.
So I don't know if you know about this, but I was actually interested in becoming a PT as well.
Okay, I
Um,
don't know if I knew this.
yeah, so like it was pretty extreme. Like I was already an aerospace engineer, and we had off Fridays. So every other Friday was an off Friday. And I was like, you know what? I want to go and shadow a
Yeah.
clinic. And so on my off Fridays, I went and shadowed at an outpatient clinic. God dang,
Boom.
look
See, you're learning. You're
at the
learning.
lingo. Um, and I met some of the like nicest people. They were so smart. And what was kind of interesting, and I wanted to ask you about this, about like the specialization thing, is like I think the PT that I was shadowing, like she had a specialty in like what is that called? Like needling, and she
Oh
would like
yeah, dry
needle and
needling. Yeah,
like dry
yeah,
needling and like break
yeah,
up the scar tissue, I
yeah.
think.
Yep,
And then
yep.
like another person had like what is it when your like the crystals in your ear fall out and
Oh,
you like
oh,
lose
like
a
vestibular
vestibular.
therapist. Yeah,
Yep. And so like
yep.
I literally think I watched them like with the patient like
Do a maneuver
rotate
to, yeah, yeah.
and it's like so like with that, are those like extra certifications? Like not everybody can do that, I guess, or
Yeah, great question. So there are certain
and
things
you
like
do have any specialties like that or interest
there,
in doing anything like that?
yeah, there are certain like I'd say treatments like dry needling is one where yeah, you have to take a class to get certified to do it, which I did a couple of years ago. I don't use it a ton, but like it's a tool out there that we can use.
Mm,
Vestibular therapists or like concussion's another big field that PTs work in. Those are those fall in the category of like anyone can technically do that. We were learned about it some in school, um, but it is definitely something that like you can take more classes on. I'm not sure if there's certifications in there, but you can like definitely take continuing ed courses to get better at. And then like more broadly, there's specialization exams you can take, which kind of you become a clinical specialist is what it's termed, and so you can do one in orthopedics, you can do one in sports.
mm,
There's one in like cardiology, I think, pediatrics. I think like geriatrics. There's one, so working with older patients, and so most people probably study for 5 6 months, and you can take that exam. So I did that a couple years ago, and there's a couple like at our clinic we have a lot of people who have that and the sports specialty exam. It's not
mm.
certainly not necessary, but it's just a way to kind of better yourself in that field. And also, if like you did want to try to look for other jobs or like make yourself more marketable and competitive,
Makes sense.
certainly taking those exams or just like taking more classes and getting more certifications to expand your like toolbox, whether it's dry needling or um, yeah, there's some other like specific treatment classes you can take,
Mm.
and which is fun. I mean, I think it's a good way to keep yourself engaged in your own field and like trying to push yourself to be better, and that's probably true of most healthcare healthcare fields, I would say there's
Yeah,
always going to be like, yeah,
continuing education. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which like most of the time you have to do it for your license in anyway. Like every couple of years you have to have a
Upkeep,
certain
right?
number of, yeah, exactly, a certain number of hours. Um, but yeah, it can be a fun way to just like learn something new and not become like stagnant with what you're doing.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like fixated because I was like, dude, I'm sitting at this desk like all the time, and it's like it felt like I was lacking out on like some like social aspects, and I was like, hey, I was kind of an athlete, like, and I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
it's like athletes are almost like, dude, they are like designed to just be the optimal human being for that thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Totally.
dude, wouldn't it be sick to be like the person who like keeps them healthy?
Yeah. It's a very satisfying thing. I feel like you would be, because like to be a PT, you have to be a people person. Like
Mm.
I spend 10 hours a day talking to, you know, 15 different patients. Like that's all I do is chat. I feel like you would be literally meant for that. Just like,
Bro,
constant like
I love
chatting with
yapping.
people, small talk. Exactly. Like
Yeah,
you would be ideal for that.
dude. All right. Hey, I'm never closing the
It's not too
door. You
late.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Dr. Thatch, bro.
See, it's got a good ring to it.
Dude, I got a joke where it's like my dad always wanted me to be a doctor, and so I wasn't smart enough to become one, but I was smart enough to marry one. So it's like we do have a Dr.
There
Thatch.
you go. Yeah. It's a little
Exactly.
roundabout way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Elizabeth
it.
never took my last name, so technically it's not. So
Someone has
damn.
to. Yeah. Yeah. Secrets out.
That's so fun. Going back to what you said about like career growth. So you are a physical therapist at your clinic. Do you have like are there next steps? Like do you have like a roadmap to something, or like how can you progress
Yeah.
if there is any?
Yeah. I think you're touching on a good point of like healthcare, I'd say in general, you kind of get like locked into a bucket. Like in a way, I think it's nice. I always tell people like there's not a lot of jobs or careers anymore where you like come out of school and you're like, I am this. Like I'm a PT, this is what I'm going to do. I'm an OT, this is what I'm going to do. I'm a doctor. Like healthcare, it's more that way, but like other fields, you come out with a degree and you know, trying to find a job or like what you want to do and like what field do you want to fall in can be confusing. This is like, I come out, I'm going to be a PT, this is what I am, which is great. But then that's also what you are forever. Like
Mm,
there's, you can maybe move up to like do management or like become a supervisor.
right.
Um, Outside of that, or like if you wanted to go into, I don't know, maybe some sort of like legislation, but even then, like it's not, I don't know, I don't see a lot of people.
Is opening up your own clinic like another potential thing? Do you need
Yeah,
like
totally.
anything
You
special to do that,
no,
or
you could, I could do that right now if I like truly
Mm,
wanted to go that route.
okay, I see.
But so yeah, like yeah, business owner would be a possibility. I think it's probably becoming increasingly hard to do that. I guess maybe it depends on where you are.
Mm,
It's a little more of an undertaking, but for the
because
most
of
part, it's.
like why?
I
Do
think
do you think?
like
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong with this, but in a big urban area like where we are, where you are, I just think there's so many, and Minnesota's also like known for having really good healthcare and having good healthcare systems. So there's big hospital systems that run all these clinics. So, for example, the clinic I work at is owned by one of the large hospital systems in Minneapolis. So I think it'd be hard to open your own place and compete with these hospital
The big
systems that have
dogs.
15 clinics all over the city, and there's
Yeah.
4 hospital systems that have that. So it's just like already very saturated. Um, I think it can be very profitable to open your own clinic if it goes well. Can also be financially
The
stressful.
Bro, literally. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
I think that's going to be true of, I mean, any business that you open.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I think about going back to your original question. I think about a lot of like, oh, I'm just like gonna keep doing this for 40 years. Like, great, I enjoy it, but um, yeah, I think unless you're gonna move up into management or change careers, like you're pretty much locked in with being a PT and like treating patients. And again, that's true of doctors, OTs, like
Yeah.
any sort of healthcare field is just that's what you are and that's what you do. So I don't know, you have to be creative with like if you really wanted to change it up and do something completely different. I know like some PTs will maybe go into like medical sales
Mm.
if they are like just sick of treating patients and they want something totally different. But again, that's not something like you need a
PT
PT
degree.
degree to do that. So
Mm. I see.
um, yeah, so there are options, but I think for the most part you're somewhat limited unless you're gonna just kind of move up within your own clinic and do management.
The reason why I ask is because from my own career as an engineer, like the structure in general has always been, yep, you come in level 1, then you become level 2, and then you move up until like level whatever. And um so with that, like you get like higher pay.
Yeah,
Um and so like with that, how does that work for a physical therapist? And then like sharing your own personal like salary journey.
yeah, that's no, I think it's really helpful to talk about that and like for other people to know like what different careers, like your earning potential is. I feel like it's not something that's like stressed in school or even undergrad. And um, so I started 5 years ago making like low 70s, maybe like
Okay.
72,000.
And this is in
Um,
Minnesota.
this is in Minnesota, yeah, which probably has a on the higher end of cost of living, I would guess, at least where we are in Minneapolis. And I did a couple of things. I'd say my salary progression was maybe different than most people, just based on um, I took a different job within my current position that moved me up into a different job class. It's kind of not really important to talk about, but 5 years later, also taking the exam that I talked about to specialize in ortho, that's one way you can like bump your pay up a little bit. Most clinics will recognize that and give you a raise for that. Um, 5 years later, salary is just shy of 100,
Okay.
which I think that's like a very substantial jump in the world of PT in only 5 years. I don't expect it to go up really any more than that, other than just annual like inflation raises, which
Like cost of
aren't.
living,
Yeah,
whatever. Like
yeah, cost of living raises,
your two
exactly. Yeah,
percenters
yeah,
type
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
exactly. Uh,
Literally, bro.
which
Is it so like is there like so that's interesting. There is like a cap then? It and is it like based on like I guess are you also salaried or is it by the number of patients that you see?
I'd say there's not like a clear cap, but I think there's like an artificial one of you're going to reach a certain earning potential. Once you're there, you're just going to ride the cost of living raises. That being said, going back to your question about like moving laterally, I think that is one way
Hmm.
you can increase your pay. So like I could, even if I'm at my current outpatient orthopedic clinic, I'm probably not going to like get any substantial raises unless I were to quit and get a job somewhere else,
Hmm.
because they'll be try to be a little more competitive and say, "Yep, we'll offer you X amount more," or
Yeah.
try to do that and then go back to your current clinic and be like, "Hey, they're offering me this," which,
Negotiating.
yeah, yeah,
What a
and
game though. Like
yeah,
so
it's
dumb.
like
That's
I don't.
exactly how it is in software. Yep. Or
Is
actually
it?
in engineering, yeah, from my experiences like, yep, I'm threatening to leave. And unless you're serious too, like
Yeah,
that's how you get your raises.
yeah, yeah.
But what a
Which is, yeah, it's. I saw
it's
some.
bullshit actually.
Yeah, like yeah, I feel like companies should reward
Pay
people
their
who have been there
employees.
for a long time. But I feel like the longer you are at one place, oftentimes you can be earning less relative to like younger people who are coming in.
Mm,
Um,
true.
and so for our specific clinic, which I feel like is common for most big hospital systems, you have a salary and then you can get a bonus based on like your productivity within
Mm,
your schedule. So if you're seeing a lot more patients, you're picking up extra shifts, you could then you earn money per or earn like maybe a dollar amount per extra unit that you build, whatever it is. There's different
right, right,
ways you
right.
can do it.
Okay,
Um,
so there is like also like the possibility of like a bonus, or at least where
yeah,
you work. Oh, I
yeah.
see.
So, and I'd say a lot of the clinics I know around here are the same way. I feel like that's
Mm,
not that uncommon in healthcare.
okay, I
Um,
see.
so, for example, salary a little under 100, bonus can be anywhere from 12 to 18,000 on top of that.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
some clinics will offer like could probably be able to bonus 3 to 4 times that. It just depends on the location and like their pay structure and everything. But I think if a new if a college student were to ask me like what to expect to make right out of PT school, I'd probably guess somewhere in the 80s.
Yeah. It like now,
Um,
right? Because of the
now,
cost of
yeah,
living is
yeah,
when you did it. Yeah.
right. I'd say like yeah, it's not gonna go up a ton in your career, which is
Mm,
it's hard. Like if you're in a job where your pay kind of goes up based on years of experience, like working in a school district or something where it is fairly linear.
mhm.
You're not going to see that in PT. I'd say maybe healthcare in general, but I can't speak for like physicians or
Yeah.
nurses. Nurses probably climb up a little higher with years of experience being unionized, but
Oh, I
um,
see.
yeah, I think for PT, OT, speech therapy, like you can do things to bump up your pay to an extent, but outside of that, you're either got to go to management or quit your job and work somewhere else to get paid more, which
Gotcha.
is not a great feeling.
Yeah.
Like
Positive mental attitude, bro.
there you go. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
hmm
Um, something I did also want to ask you, what what are your opinions on chiropractors? Dude,
uh, great,
fake
great
science.
question.
Is it on site? Like you see
I
them and you're like, dude, I'm gonna swing. It's like
no, I patients ask me that all the time, like what my thoughts are, and I have nothing against them. I think um, I don't think what they do is bad. I always just encourage patients to think like if it's something that you're not getting long term relief from, or it's not like if it's something you have to keep going back for, like is it a sustainable fix, or is it a
mm,
fix at all, or is it just um, a temporary solution? And I think the right time and place. I think chiropractors can be very very helpful, but that's if people are going back all the time, a couple times a week,
you're
and
not
it's a
solving
very
the root
temporary
problem.
thing, we're not solving the problem exactly.
Yeah.
But if people want to do that, great, go for it. Like I got nothing against that, and um, no, so I don't
Right.
think there's as much like animosity between the two fields as maybe people think. But I just don't really care what they want to do, and if patients want to do what
I'm
go
not
see
gonna stop
chiros, go for it. Yeah, exactly. Like who am I to say what to tell you what to do and what not to do?
Yeah, go over there, get injured, then come to me and I'll
Yeah,
fix you for
yeah.
real.
Job,
Just kidding.
job
Dude, the clinic that
security.
I was like the clinic I was like shadowing, bro, they were trash and they're like, dude, that's fake science. And so since then, like that was when I learned about like, oh
Yeah,
dude.
I think I can't speak like for sure, but I think some of their like ideology and science behind it is probably not well supported and well backed.
Mm,
Um, and maybe their reasoning behind doing what they're doing isn't something that most people would agree with. But I think regardless, if a patient goes in with an expectation of they're going to do X, Y, or Z to me and I'm going to feel better, it's probably going to work. You know, like
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said about that. I think there's probably some stuff that PTs do that are, you know, maybe not like the best thing, but if a patient thinks it's helping, you know, there's a lot to be said for that.
That's true. Yeah.
So
Bruh, have you seen the memes of like, oh, I like the chiropractor, and it's like, all right, you exhale, and it's like, like
yeah,
a break the skeleton or whatever.
yeah. It's like
All right,
step on a
breathe.
box or
Boom.
yeah,
Exactly. That's
no.
so funny. That's
That
how I
being
think
said,
about it.
I love watching chiropractor videos. Like it's so satisfying.
Crack the neck.
Yep.
Bro, a little hammer thing.
That's.
I was
I
like,
don't know
what
about
is that?
that.
It was like, okay.
I do kind of want to see the background conversations because, like, most of those chiropractors are connecting, like, hooking up microphones to like a patient's shirt to like really
Mm.
pick up the crack. Like, I kind of want to hear
Bro,
how that conversation goes.
hey, is it cool if I put this mic up your butt?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
right.
literally.
Can I clip
That's
this
so
to your
funny.
shorts? No reason.
Yeah, literally. That's so funny.
But that being said, a lot of my feed is those videos because it's just
Yeah, exactly.
it's satisfying.
Yeah, I like the crack sound. I won't lie.
I know.
Yeah,
It's great.
crack sound, not crack.
Yeah. Good,
Right.
good distinction.
That's so funny. Do you have any advice for anybody that is interested in getting into physical therapy?
Yeah, I think. I mean, kind of taking a similar route you did of just like shadowing and like seeing if it's something you really want to do. I think, you know, a lot of people have the background of, man, most people were like, did a sport in high school, got injured, went to a PT, they knew they really liked it, and that's how they like get into it and then know they want to do it. But I do think it's really helpful to just like, yeah, go shadow, reach out to a clinic and be like, hey, can I come by and, you know, spend an afternoon and just see how it is. And if you're like in school and you know, or you're in college, you know it's what you want to do, I'd say keeping on top of what classes schools require. Because again, I said like most schools have the same requirements, but some will have like random classes that you need to take. And if you wait till like junior year to like really look into that, sometimes you're like, oh crap, I'm not gonna have enough time to like get all these classes in. So sometimes the list can kind of add up of like, oh, I got to make sure I get all these ones done. And so I think, yeah, staying on top of that can be really helpful. And then I think touring schools and like seeing like what the vibe is there, seeing if you like the people that you meet, can be a lot of schools require interviews. So like you do go and like get to experience it. But I think since COVID, a lot of that's become virtual. So you don't necessarily like get to see what it's like there. So yeah, I think those could be some helpful tips for anyone interested in doing it.
Those are good tips. But yeah, Kent, thank you, Dr. Deerdorf. Thank you so much for your time today, bro.
Elizabeth somewhere in there, right?
That's the wife. That's so funny. But yeah, thank you so much for hopping on today and kind of like explaining a little bit more about what it's like to be a physical therapist.
Absolutely. I'm excited to listen to some of the other podcasts and see what other careers I'm missing out on.
For sure, bro.
Yeah.
Software engineering, dude, and then side podcast guy.
yeah, right.
So funny. And that concludes today's episode. Thank you all so much for clocking in with Kent and I today. Thank you, Kent, for coming on to today's show. And shout out to the Bolo Boys for creating the intro and outro music. If you have any questions about what it's like being a physical therapist, or if you are a PT and you want to share your experiences, we'd love to see your comments down below.